guys, a very warm welcome back to Motorhome and Adventures. It's good to see you all again.
Absolutely.
Thank you to all of you that continue to watch our films, and also to those of you who've recently subscribed. We very much appreciate it, don't we?
Yeah, very much so. Thank you very much indeed.
A lot of you have requested a film covering our trip from Wales to Croatia last year, and in particular some of the costings. So in this film we're going to be looking at the route summary of all the places that we stayed at.
Yep.
And also the costings, of course.
Yes, the magic figures.
Yes, Bob keeps a spreadsheet for everything, including those.
And they do. They've got some uses, I suppose, haven't they? Just some.
A little bit. No, that's very good. It's very good.
There's data people and there's non-data people.
Yeah,
it's the perfect match, really, isn't it?
It is. And also, we're going to highlight some of the things that we found really useful as well. So hopefully you'll find those tips useful.
Yeah, absolutely. So, without further ado, let's have a look at the route summary. Good old Google Maps. Now, this is where I'll do a big fingers crossed because there is our route all the way down. Up on the left here, we've got all the stops we made, all those campsites. And hopefully, fingers crossed, in the link below, in the description below, you've got two links. One is to our outward journey, which this is an example of, or this is our outward journey, 1,314 miles down to that beautiful Trogier that you remember from that episode. And then there is the route back. That's back through Slovenia. We camping Nordsam, camping Gunstal, camping Bellevue 2000 in Luxembourg. Right, all the way back to Bal camping, and 1,156 miles, so a couple of hundred miles difference. That was the route on the way back. Let's make that a bit smaller. Yes, in fact, there you go. That's why it was a little bit less, because on this time I've stopped at Bal camping and not gone all the way back to Tenby, but I assure you, we are talking to you from Tenby. If for any reason that doesn't work for you, then I can always send you a separate list or whatever. Or you could freeze frame the spreadsheet coming up of costings, which would show you all the campsites anyway. So on that very subject, let's have a look at the costings, which may involve a spreadsheet. Okay, so there we have another one of Bob's spreadsheets. The costings, Wales to Croatia. Pretty straightforward, really. Those were all the campsites that we chose, which hopefully my Googled link would have sent you, together with the costs and how many nights we were at each. You'll see that that Croatia one, which you'll remember was pretty good value, very good value. 269 for the full 12 nights there. Some were obviously a bit more expensive. Senalp, camping Senalp in Austria, Lake Plancy, beautiful site, even in the snow and the crazy weather. But yeah, that was 30 odd pound a night. Similarly, you know, Lake Garda, Venice, all those sorts of prices, 30 plus per night. But then, you know, down into the 20s, Croatia, down the bottom, 15, 16 quid a night, Bal camping. 15 quid in Belgium. So yeah, I mean, it's certainly not bad at all, is it? You expect, I guess, to have to pay 30 to 40 pound a night, particularly these days, while the crazy energy prices are still with us, for some of the more expensive ones that are also in some of the very popular tourist areas. So, but you know, that's part of your calculations. Therefore, all I've done over this side, that again was just a way of me tracking there what I had left to pay. Some I paid up front, some you had to pay when you got there. Obviously, you often have a tiny bit of tourist tax to pay, which might be, you know, €0.50 or 60 or 70 cents per person per night. It's not much at all. Quite a common thing in Europe is tourist tax, and just about to introduce it in Wales. for any stays in Wales. So watch this space. Not here yet, but likely to be similar, probably a quid or so a night, because with our little Airbnb we're already getting information about what it's likely to be and what they're setting up. But tourist tax would be something you would certainly have to pay even if you pay in advance. And then really a breakdown, self-explanatory breakdown there. Motorway tolls, it worked out about, it was somewhere around about £10 100 kilometres ish, give or take a little bit here and there depending on which country you're in, Slovenia, Austria, France. We paid obviously in Slovenia, in Austria, in Italy. The German autobahns don't charge. France, we didn't hit any toll roads before crossing into Belgium. Belgium have no motorway charges. Luxembourg had no motorway charges. So, a lot of it is still like the UK, barring the odd toll road, of course. Still like the UK, where you generally don't pay in some of those countries. But others, as we've talked about already, do your research and be ready for those. The parking fee, didn't pay much in parking fees at all for the van. So there's obviously one headline figure, £780 and 23 pence for that total trip. Which again, that was a lot of miles and I'm pretty pleased with that. That's not too bad. Couple of £100 on groceries. That was obviously over and above the cash I took. I think I changed about 500 or 600 GBP, or got out about €700. Can't remember exactly, but but that was the GBP figure. A little bit on the laundry, some of our meals out, a few prezzies here and there. AdBlue you probably see isn't on there, but as you saw on our sort of generally motorhome running costs, AdBlue, that's overall, incidentally, since we've had the van 12,500 miles, it's only about a penny, a mile. So that sort of works out, I guess, if you were to put an AdBlue price in there for us, that would be about 25, 30 quid. So again, that's not too bad. So final figure, give or take a few here and there that I've probably missed out or lost a receipt or something, but the key ones obviously are in there, like the diesel and the site costs and Eurotunnel's in there. 194 incidentally, Eurotunnel. That was because I swapped some Tesco vouchers, good old Tesco's, and got the price down by, I think it was just over 100 quid then, back in July 22 when I booked. Be different this year because we'll be adding the little bike trailer for Peggy the scooter, so that'll make us a bit more expensive. I think it'll be just over or just under 300 quid for now, our combined van trailer unit, but again Tesco's will take a kicking, no doubt. I've got 60 or 70 quid worth of vouchers, so get in there incidentally before the 14th of June when Tesco's go from 3 down to 2 times the value of your vouchers. So I'm definitely going to get in there before we do our next trip and book the Eurotunnel, which will be for summer this year. A couple of trips away planned. Keep an eye on the channel. 310966. 1 month, 13th of September to 12th of October, 1 month almost smack on, all the way to Croatia and back. Do it. You know you want to. Do it.
So there were probably about 5 things that I listed that I found really useful to consider on our trip. And one of those was planning the activities or places to visit en route.
Yeah, we had Plitvice was one, wasn't it?
Yeah, Plitvice National Park was one place that we wanted to visit, and we booked that in advance.
Needed to as well, because you can't sort of turn up at the gate and do that one. So website link again. I think in the film we had links for that as well on that Plitvice film, if you look back to that episode. Yes,
amazing place in Croatia. And we also stopped off in Venice. That was another highlight, which we'd planned that we were going to do that.
Yes, didn't do any planning in advance, as in from Tenby, but certainly worth having an idea of what you're going to try and see in Venice. There's so many on the spot forms of transport that you can get, which very much can be sculpted to your budget. So yeah, certainly have a thought about what you're going to do when you get into Venice.
Yes, and there were many other wonderful places that we stopped off at as well. The other thing I thought was giving yourself enough breaks en route. I mean, obviously Croatia is a long way away.
Yes, it was.
We did do some just one night stops, but you know, if you've got time and you can afford the time, then do plan for longer stops.
We were chasing the sun, we were.
We were, yeah.
Yeah, so initially I think we was a couple of one nights when the Belgium was, and then I think the one after Belgium was as well, into Germany. But then the sun was calling Nicky, without a doubt. Sun goddess.
Yeah. So giving yourself enough of a break. And then we thought it would be really useful to think about how many miles we'd like to do each day, especially when we were only going to be stopping one night en route and, of course, on the way back as well. We decided for us that if we wanted to make progress, then about 200 miles a day was enough for us. Enough not to tire us out too much, but enough to make progress.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, of course, as soon as you put it into Google, it tells you how long it takes. But, of course, that's, working on 60, 70 mile an hour speed limits. We got the trailer now, so we certainly, even without the trailer, we are restricted as a 4.4 tonne to 50 mile an hour, except obviously on motorways and dual carriageways. So the reality is I worked on about 45 to 50 miles per hour. So that 200 is going to be, round about 4 to 5 hours, plus then lunch, any other stops. So, already you're looking at perhaps 6 hours for that sort of mileage if you're having a nice steady potter and enjoying the scenery. Yes,
so that worked for us. But of course, you may want to do less, or you may want to do more.
Or go for it, yeah.
Yeah, but it's something it's something to think about anyway.
Yeah.
The other thing I found really useful was shopping or finding a supermarket before reaching the campsite, because often when we arrived at a campsite, there were either no shops locally or there may be one shop or one shop on the campsite, but we found our choice was very limited then, and sometimes shopping in a smaller shop was more expensive.
Yeah, I mean generally always,
So if you can find a supermarket before you get to your campsite, then it might be useful.
Yes, I mean there's a stack of Aldi's, Lidl's, there's their versions of Tesco's and Sainsbury's and Auchan and hypermarkets, you name it. So yeah, absolutely loads to choose from, and a good spot there from Nicky.
And also, I found it was really good to keep a load of non-perishables, your favourites, which I brought from home, kept them in the van, enough to last you the whole trip. So we were away for a month, so I was stacked up on rice, pasta, cereals, that sort of thing.
300 weight of chocolate. Might have been in the garage for Nicky. It was about 300 weight, a couple of kilos.
He's not exaggerating. So your favourites, your naughties as well. They're great, aren't they, to have all of that with you without having to think about it.
Bicky here and there, got to be Bickies,
Yeah. So those are my 5 top tips, I think, really.
Right, let's have a fire away. I've jotted some down as well, because unsurprisingly, some of it might be data-ish. Okay, first and foremost, one thing that I would summarise would be sort of how you plan on doing. Nicky's talked about the stops, and perhaps if you stop for a couple of nights on the way down, or 3 nights if you've got the luxury of being able to spend 2 or 3 nights in one spot as you travel down. But if we were going to stay for anything longer than a couple of 3 nights, then what I was interested in looking at was what's on the pitch itself. So let's particularly look at Croatia, for example. We were there for 12 nights, so it was key for me to have a look at how powerful is the electric, because obviously France and other European countries go from as low as 6 amps up to 16 amps, which is of course the UK standard hookup. 6 amps obviously restricts you a fair bit to those things in your van you might have, such as induction hobs. If you take an air fryer, if you wanted to use some electric
and more
heating.
importantly, the hairdryer. I mean,
Yes.
obviously not for Bob, but for
No,
me.
think of all the money I've saved not having any hair for all these years. Must be a fortune on shampoo and hair dryers, mustn't it? But yeah, so and that includes, as well as power supply, obviously, I was keen to know whether there was fresh water right on the pitch itself in Croatia, whether there was grey water dropout on the pitch in Croatia, which there was, and then, as Nicky was saying earlier, just, if we were there for 12 days, what was the locally? So I had a quick look on Google Maps as to what type of shops were within walking or cycling distance, because then we didn't have the luxuries of Peggy the scooter, which we'll have next time we go. So yeah, anything more than a couple of 3 days, have a good look at the site and particularly what the pitch offers, so you don't have to move the van every couple of days for fresh water, grey water dropout, whatever that may be. On that subject as well, I've looked at and added to, as a result of our Croatia trip, a couple of grey water solutions. One is a waste hog. I looked for the biggest one I could find that I can just slide under the van. And if you remember on one of our earlier films, I've put a length of hose coming out of the water outlet, grey water outlet, ready to work with the waste hog, which is a 42 litres, I think that one is. But then what I've also done with that piece that's dropping out of the grey waste is I've now got some sections of that grey waste pipe. It's called Colapz, I think, which is Colapsz or something. That's their brand name. They're 1 metre sections, and it means now in the van I've got about 7 or 8 lengths of that, which would get me to just about any part of a pitch we were on when they have a grey waste drain. So then don't need the waste hog, just connect up with push fit type fittings, and then straight into the grey waste. So if we were in Croatia, for example, again, I would have enough just to take the grey waste straight to the drain that was in the corner of our pitch. Okay, that's on that subject. Second one was finance. I know we've talked about costings, but I actually also swapped, having been with the good old Halifax for years. When we got back from our first foray abroad, having got the van, obviously I noticed we'd been charged more than one occasion for just using our bank account abroad, which was really grating, and I thought that was about time to change. So a quick look around, we opted for Starling, which don't charge anything at all for any debit card use anywhere in Europe. And also their advice to us as well was, if you're paying by your debit card, pay in local currency. When you're given an option, you're often given an option by the vendors or the cafes or whatever. Do you want to pay in GBP or their own currency, be it euros or whatever, when we were in Croatia? So their advice was always choose to pay in the local currency, because then you don't get you get a better exchange rate, basically.
The only downside to that is that you get a text each time you make a payment. So when I'm off in the shop,
another shop,
looking at chocolate and
well,
chocolate ice cream,
clothes, chocolate.
Bob knows what I'm spending on.
Yeah, get notification. You can stop that notification. No, I won't tell her that. Right, so that's local currency. We've got as well, check my magic list. Yeah, driving requirements. I know you'll have probably thought about those things already, but it's just make sure that we crossed about 9 or 10 country borders. Most of them are the same, so it's all things like, spare bulbs. It's definitely fluorescent jackets and triangle. And incidentally, I also moved from the garage up to the sort of front of the van, because they folded away in a tiny little pack. So I've now got the fluorescent jackets sort of in the driver's door pocket, together with the triangle is just in the storage locker immediately behind the driver's door. All very quick to get at. And therefore just make sure you've covered all of those specific country requirements. The RAC is one website that normally has pretty up-to-date advice as to what you should take in each country if you didn't want to go searching on the specific country's website. That's that one. Expiring in November last year was our good old eHICS of old. They've now become GHICS, or Global Health Cards. Ours had lasted, as yours probably have, for several years. Finally ran out, so I've just applied for them. So apply for them well in advance, but make sure you perhaps carry your GHIC or equivalent when you're abroad. You'll have seen, of course, we've put information out about Crit Air and information out about toll roads. The toll roads where we needed the little device stuck in the windscreen, that was Austria and Slovenia rather. So make sure you've thought about that process. France, obviously you pay, toll roads, you don't need the little thing in the windscreen, and you can avoid quite easily motorways in France. In fact, I'd recommend avoiding motorways in France because the country roads are beautiful, absolutely stunning, aren't they?
Yeah.
But certainly Austria, it's a bit more difficult to avoid it because, of course, you have to go up and down those rather bumpy structures called the Alps, which you'll remember from that amazing footage when we were on that platform that went out over that valley, with holes in the bottom. It was, it was an incredible drive, but A, you're only doing about 25, 30 mile an hour, and B, you're doing some serious height, and there was a serious bit of brake usage on the way down. Certainly had a tiny bit of brake fade as well, which is not nice if you've got a 4.5 ton motorhome, as we were snaking, zigzagging back down the hills. So sometimes it's motorways, or in this case Austrian toll roads, might be your only option. So just have a thought about that. And related to that, of course, and sort of back to my other point about driving documents, is that I had my V5 with me in Austria but didn't have a certificate of conformity. The V5 didn't actually show that it was a Euro 6. The certificate of conformity on the van did, and so when I got back to the UK I had to forward that to the Austrian authorities to demonstrate that it was a Euro 6. So you can get your windscreen device in Austria with your V5, but it would be easier if you took your certificate of conformity or some document that had on it that you were, an official document, that you were a Euro 6 or 5 or whatever you are. So that's documents. European extension plugs. You'll have seen several sites, not so many on this Croatia trip, but certainly in France we've had a lot of sites that needed that small section that allows you to plug into electric hookup to add to your standard UK hookup lead. It's only a few quid at Amazon, but definitely a thing to put in your van, because there will be occasions where you can't plug straight in without an adapter. I'll try and remember to put a link below, probably an Amazon link to that product. Cooling and temperatures. The first few days was a bit rainy and miserable, wasn't it? But it got rapidly better as we hit Croatia and Venice and that. But yeah, keeping cool in the van.
Yes.
Without aircon.
Yeah, we found, we were the year before that. Oh no, was it the same year?
France,
yes, it was the same year. Yeah, same year. Lost track.
Yeah.
When we were in France down on the Mediterranean, it was, we were in temperatures of 30 degrees sometimes,
Plus
weren't we?
35, yeah 35.
And I'd found that using a small fan with the capacity to put an ice block in it, or it's built, the ice block's actually built into the fan.
Yeah, really good.
Was really good. It kept me very cool during the night. We had another fan running as well, an ordinary fan, and we didn't find that we needed air conditioning.
No.
And so it's not something I think we would personally consider for our van in the future. We were fine with those.
Yeah, it is personal preference, but that one that Nicky's describing that had the ice blocks that you put in the freezer during the day, that was a mains one, but we also had a little battery one which was only a tiny little thing, But just the fact that air's moving across you, even in those temperatures at night, I found was okay to sleep in. So, but just something to think about if you haven't got the luxury of aircon. What else? Euros. Euro supply I've put mainly for laundry because you saw there that we once or twice used both the washing machines and the dryers. Of course, what I'd add to that straight away is you would have also seen on the film that we had that great little portable circular drying line with us. Definitely recommend getting yourselves one of those, either that or something you can string between trees or whatever, because as you saw in Croatia, the cost of the dryers was like £7 or £8 just for a drying cycle. And of course, you're going to have, fingers crossed, you're going to have nice warm weather to dry clothes. So something good to dry on, be it a line or a rotary jobby like we got. And I've put on there as well spare parts. Now, all I'm referring to there, and as I say, this is certainly not a definitive list, but one thing that struck me, and I'm probably going to drop one into the garage as a spare, is a water pump. We have, you have so many systems that rely on it, both to the sinks in the kitchen, the bathroom, the toilet, your heating, God knows what, that rely on one device. I think the replacement for mine is a Shore Flow pump, and I think the replacement is about 60 or 70 quid, thanks to the guys on the Mobile Vetter site, one or two of which who carry spare pumps. That got me thinking about, what parts might be a real inconvenience if we're in the middle of nowhere and can't find a stockist. So I'm going to add that to the garage. Haven't done yet, but I am going to add a water pump to the garage. As I say, if you've got any other things that you think are absolute musts in terms of sort of spares, then we'd love to hear those. So do add them to the comments below, and we'll either add to our own garage or it'll certainly benefit the others of those of you who are watching this particular film. We've of course also added one thing that was, as you know, if you watch us, one thing that was slightly concerning was the fact that we didn't have a spare wheel. So as you've seen, we've now rectified that. I'm going to keep hold of the foam as well, just in case. Keep hold of the foam just in case. But certainly a spare wheel perhaps is something to think about if you're stuck out in the middle of nowhere.
Absolutely. And
I think, you've got something else on there
yes,
as well? Yes.
Incidentally, guys, I've made an app. Here it is. I'll just put it closer to the camera. It's Motorhome Checklists, it's called. It's an app where you can... There we go. You can probably see it a bit clearer now. It's an app where you can go in as a pre-departure checklist, so you can tick off items that you want to remember.
Check her out.
I know. Motorhome accessories checklist as well, things that you might want to, things that you haven't thought about that you might want in your motorhome. There's a motorhome trip items checklist as well. All the things you want to take on your tour.
You'll understand that all of these lists have only got one item, chocolate.
No, they've got a few more things.
Oh,
yeah.
Have they?
I've done a motorhome winterising checklist as well, and a buying a motorhome checklist. It's free to use. Once you've completed the checklist, you can submit it and receive an email back to you with a copy of your completed checklist, just for your own future reference. It's free, completely free. We'll put a link to it in the comments, in the description down below.
Check her out. Be Microsoft headhunting us soon, won't it? And of course, as always, anything you think need adding to those lists, I think we can add to them, can't we?
Oh yes, we can add to them. So so if you think of anything else, I can just add them.
Be a good little resource, that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think, without boring you to tears, I think we've covered for the Wales to Croatia trip those things that we just wanted to highlight as perhaps little hints and tips. add them to the description below if you think we've made any glaring omissions. Probably have, but I'll blame it on my age. Nicky's still way too young to be forgetting things. So I hope that's been of use, guys. Sorry that we haven't done that film a bit sooner. Thanks to Sheila, incidentally, for reminding me that I hadn't done it yet. I promised Sheila that I'd buck up, so I have, and I've done the film. We've both done it. And I hope that our summary's been of use to you.
Yes, and thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks ever so much for watching. We'll see you again very soon for the next film.
Bye now.
Bye, guys. Bye.